Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Monday, November 4th. Hope everyone having a really good day so far. If you are just tuning in, we have just finished going over our Week 10 winners and losers in college football. In this segment, we turn our attention to a ranking. Usually we do these on Tuesdays, but a little bit of change of format here as we're doing our top 25 for college football today to make sure we get all the NFL winner and losers in tomorrow's segment. For that, we have 25 teams off the block, and as I was talking about in our last segment, I don't think 25 teams deserve to be ranked, but we're still going to rank 25 of them for you in just 1 second. But before we do that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Monday, November 4th. But like I was saying, in this segment, we get into our Week 11 college football top 25, as always, starting with our group of 5 top 5, a group of 5 that has been very competitive all season long, a group of 5 that still has about 6 or 7 teams that I think can still make the college football playoff if the right things go in front of them. Obviously, not all of them make our top 25. Although we'll see how many make it this week. Last week we had 4. Maybe we get 5 this week. At number 5, a new entrant. It's Louisiana. Louisiana, top of the Sun Belt right now, undefeated in Sun Belt play. They have looked really good. The Sun Belt is having a little bit of a down year, but still, Louisiana coming out of it has shocked me at least. Been a very, very good team. The Ragin' Cajuns are coming in very sneakily. I think they're a team that could find a way to the college football playoff if just a couple teams slip up ahead of them. At number 4, it's Tulane. If you want to talk about upside in the group of 5, I think the one with the most is Tulane. Tulane, I think, has the biggest ability to just show up against a random team someday. That offense is crazy. The issue is the defense isn't quite all there. Again, I love that offense. They're the number 4 team, but a couple of tough losses against good Power 5 programs has pushed them back just a little bit. At number 3, it's Washington State. Their sole loss this season coming against Boise State, a very quality loss. Washington State continues to prove that they should be up there, continues to prove that they deserve the respect that they have just recently gotten. A very good team continuing to keep the Pac-12 name alive. They are at number 3. At number 2, it's Army. That triple option is effective as much as it has its weaknesses. They show up without their quarterback and still beat an Air Force team. That Air Force team isn't as great as it was last year. It's still a big win against a rival school, and rivalries can make crazy things happen. Which leads us to number 1 in the group of 5 top 5, and that, of course, is Boise State. Boise State continually is the number 1 team in these group of 5 rankings. They continue to dominate. The sole loss coming a 1-possession loss to Oregon, the number 1 team in the nation, the team that has separated themselves from everybody else. The best loss you can possibly have, and I think just the best loss, point blank, period, in the entire country. Boise State, a very, very good team. They continue to dominate their opponents, and they control their destiny to the college football playoff in the group of 5. But without further ado, let's get into the top 25. Before we start off with our number 25 team, the South Carolina Gamecocks, I would just like to reiterate, again, I don't really think 25 teams deserve to be ranked, but for this 25 spot, there were a couple of teams that I think deserved to at least have a look at, right? There were 5 teams. We always do 5 honorable mentions. Texas Tech, Louisiana, UNLV, Syracuse, and Pitt. Pitt just fell out of the top of the top 25. You can throw Louisville in there as well if you would like. These are the teams that I think just missed out on the top 25. But like I was saying, the number 25 team in the nation this week is South Carolina. South Carolina has been on the outside looking in for a very long time. They have been sitting in the honorable mention slot for about 4 straight weeks, coming up close against some big teams, destroying some really good teams. This is Beamer ball at its finest, and they are some of the best spoilers in the entire nation. South Carolina deserves to be ranked, and they are 25 for me. At 24, it's Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, again, just gets a little bit more disrespect every week. They take a tough loss to Texas. They fall out of the rankings. They're back in here after a big win versus Auburn. They're up to 24. I think 24 is a good spot for them. Again, if I had to actually start ranking teams, I will tell you when I do it. Vanderbilt, probably not the one, but if we're doing 25 teams, they should be in the top 25 for the way they've played the toughest teams close. Vanderbilt at number 24. 23 is Tulane. The Green Wave, again, we kind of went into a little bit when we did our group of 5 top 5. Their offense is good enough to hang with just about any team. The defense is where the questions start and end. But I love the Green Wave offense, and I think they're a team that on any given Saturday could beat just about anyone. 22, it's Washington State. They have been getting more and more respect. They were idle this week. Still, though, Washington State continues to prove why they belong, why they are in conversations to make the college football playoff. Same thing with Army. They have yet to really face that big competition. Their season's going to come down to a battle with Notre Dame. That is what this season's going to come down to. We will see who wins that one, but that is what we're waiting on to see if the Army Black Knights really are for real, or if they're more like their service academy counterparts in Navy, who just lost a second consecutive game. At 20, it's Clemson. My, oh my, what a fall it is for the Clemson Tigers, down 14 spots in my rankings. I know I was a lot higher on them than anybody else, so I got to bite the bullet when I'm wrong, and they are all the way down to 20. Clemson, a team that I don't think deserves to be ranked. Quite honestly, I think they're better than the 4 teams ahead of them, the 5 teams ahead of them, but I don't think they deserve to be ranked. Clemson is the most disappointing team for me this season. They looked like they had fixed a lot of their issues after coming out flat in week 1 against Georgia, and I can forgive a week 1 loss against a really good Georgia team. It's because it's week 1, and it's a really good Georgia team. But in week 10, against a Louisville team that has failed to beat the really good teams that it's faced, the Notre Dames, the SMUs, that they have, the Miamis that they have played, all of these top 10, top 15 ranked teams that they have played so far. Excuse me. Then they take Clemson out. Just destroy them. It shows that Clemson is not on the same level as those 3 teams. And Clemson should not be ranked. They are down 14 spots to number 20. And number 19 is where I think teams should start to be ranked. That's right. I only think there are 19 teams in the country that deserved to be ranked this week. And that starts with number 19, the Colorado Buffaloes. The Buffaloes, quietly, or about as quietly as you can be for a Deion Sanders-led team, have been dominating college football. They take that 1 loss early on to a really good Kansas State team. A very disappointing loss by Kansas State this week. Still, Colorado, outside of that, is in the conversation in the Big 12 to win the conference title. They are in these conversations, and they deserve to be in these conversations. The defense has been playing better every single week. The offense continues to be that steamroller that we knew it was, and they've been playing better at the parts that they struggled with last season. Colorado deserves its respect. Deion deserves his respect. They are the first team I think should be ranked. 19 teams in the country deserve to be ranked, and they are one of them. And number 18, it's K-State. Kansas State, they have the head-to-head over Colorado. That's why they're still above them. A brutal loss to Houston. A Houston team that, for its credit, has been getting better and better every single week. They look like a really bad team, a team whose coach was on the hot seat early on in the season. They have turned in a couple of really solid efforts these last couple of weeks and turned that season around. They might find a way to get into a bowl, and the way they're playing, they might find a way to get into a solid bowl game right now. Kansas State, still a good team. They're prone to these mistakes, though. They have bad offensive nights. Avery Johnson, not always all the way there. We've seen them falter a little bit. They've played with fire a little bit. This is the first one where they really got burned. Hopefully this teaches them a lesson. K-State, down to number 18. At 17, it's Ole Miss, and I was ready to call Ole Miss done. I was ready to call them frauds. Then they go into Arkansas, a place that has been very tough to play this season, a place that whenever we do our game breakdowns, I say chaos reigns supreme. And an Ole Miss team that has struggled with chaos all season long comes in and drops 63 on Arkansas's head. They break records. Jackson Dart, 6 touchdowns, 500 yards. Receiver with over 285 yards and 5 touchdowns in this game. An absolute dominant performance. Some Madden video game numbers out of this game, and they show up where they needed to desperately and get their playoff chances back on track, especially with what happened at the other results out of the Big 12 and the ACC this week. At number 16, it's Texas A&M, and Texas A&M is very disappointing. I think this team is much better than they were when they played South Carolina. I think this team is much better when Connor Wegman is their quarterback. They continue to do this 2-quarterback system, and it isn't working. They need a guy that can, extend the field, yes, with his legs, but also they need a guy that can toss it with the best of them, and they just don't have that right now. Texas A&M, a very good team. They made a couple of mistakes, and they did not have the quarterback arm to get back into it. Mistakes were made, and they compounded on themselves. They fall out of the top 12. They're down 5 spots to number 16. Boise State into the top 15 at number 15 here. Boise State, again, the best group of 5 program. Ashton Jeanty continues to dominate. Maddox continues to show why he won that battle out of camp. This is a really good Boise State Broncos team, and it doesn't look like they're going to stop anytime soon. They're a team I think maybe even could advance in the round of the college football playoffs. We'll see, though. That is a lot of expectations to put upon them. They still need to get there first, but they look like a wrecking ball out of the group of 5 right now. At 14, it's Iowa State, a brutal loss for them to a good Texas Tech squad. Texas Tech comes in, wins at the last second. They're unable to get down the field. They end up losing by 1 in this one. What a great game plan by Texas Tech in this one. Texas Tech into our honorable mentions there. After a little bit of a slow start, Texas Tech, I think, should be getting a little bit of respect. But Iowa State, they're a team that survived some scares leading up to it. They just couldn't keep it going. They couldn't keep it together, and I think it really hurt the Big 12. It's not on them. They've had a really good season. They're going to continue to have a really good season. They still have a shot at the playoffs if they can win the conference, and I wouldn't be mad if they made it either because Iowa State's still a very good team, but this definitely makes it a lot harder to come out of the Big 12 now. At 13, it's SMU. I was so impressed with SMU this week, dropping almost 50 points on a Pitt defense that's been really good all season long. They did not turn the ball over the way that Pitt's defense usually makes other teams turn the ball over, and that offense continued to be a fireworks show. They dominate that game. SMU up 5 spots. That's tied for the biggest rise of the week. They should get their respect. Put it on SMU. They control their own destiny of the playoffs right now, and that is incredibly impressive for a first year ACC member. At 12, Alabama. I was low on Alabama. I know they were on a bye this week. I know. They're also up 5 spots because of everything that happened around them. Alabama proved that while they're inconsistent, yes, while they make the mistakes against some opponents that they probably should have beaten, they're a team that when they lock in can beat the best team in the nation. We saw that against Georgia. We've seen them come to play against some good teams. The question is, will we get the Alabama team that's good or the Alabama team that crumbles under pressure? And we have no idea what team we're going to get every single week. Alabama up 5 spots, tied for the biggest riser to number 12. At number 11, it's Penn State, a brutal loss for them in front of their home fans, a game that they had to have to prove that this year was different. This is not the same old Penn State that we know. This is not the Penn State that can't beat the best team in the Big Ten. But a loss to Ohio State isn't the worst thing. They're still alive in the playoffs. They showed some stuff defensively, holding Ohio State to just 20 points. They had a pick six as well. They forced a couple of key turnovers down at the goal line to keep this thing close. If the offense can just be more consistent, which always seems to be their issue, this is a Penn State team that can beat anybody. They need to figure that out now, though. At 10, it's Tennessee. Tennessee hitting the top 10 for the first time in a while. Tennessee gets a gritty win over a Kentucky squad that has given fits to a lot of good teams. Obviously, Kentucky, a team that almost beats Georgia, a team that ends up going out there and beating Ole Miss. This is a good Kentucky squad, especially defensively, and Tennessee had to fight through it. An offense that hasn't been as good as we thought it was going to be at the beginning of the year, but that defense has really stepped up for Tennessee. They do their job yet again, and Tennessee escapes with a victory, a really important one to prove that they still belong in the conversations for the playoffs. At 9, it's LSU. I love this LSU team. I think they're getting slept on by the national media a lot. The defense that they play with Garrett Nussmeier, who I think has NFL quarterback written all over him. He's not quite ready, but he's a guy that I think should get a little bit more respect, and the LSU Tigers are my number 9 team. At number 8, it's Notre Dame. Aside from a one loss to NIU, they have been dominant. Apparently, they talked with the NIU coach after that, and whatever they said, whatever NIU figured out, they fixed that. Notre Dame has looked like a completely different squad after the NIU game, and it has really helped them get back into the top 10 after I had taken them completely out of my top 25. Notre Dame, basically a lock for the playoffs. Again, another team that controls their own destiny. At number 7, it's BYU, an undefeated team in the Big 12. The top of the Big 12 division right now. They are another team that controls their destiny. They were on a bye week. Can't punish them. They're up a couple spots, actually up 5. Another team that really benefits from the chaos that happened this week in college football. BYU, the Cougars, a very good team. I'm a little worried about their defense because, like Pitt's, very opportunistic. And when you run into a team that didn't turn the ball over like SMU did, they might run into issues. But I like their offense more than I like Pitt's, and I think they can hold up against a team like that. At 6, number 6, the Indiana Hoosiers. That's it. Officially, Indiana has their best season ever. 9-0 for the first time in their history. Kurt Cignetti has turned this team around. A bunch of JMU transfers. He's used that transfer portal really incredibly well. They won a game without their quarterback. They've only trailed one time this season. That was in this game. They got punched in the mouth to open it up, and they said, we're ready. They tasted blood, and they responded with 47 straight points. Indiana has been dominant in every single game, and yes, you can talk about the strength of schedule not being there, but still, this is an Indiana team that I think deserves a lot of respect. They're up to number 6. At number 5, it's Texas. And I think really there's a clear top 5 teams in the league. As much as I talk about Oregon separating themselves, I think there's a clear top 5 teams. Whatever order you want it to be in, I think the top 5 teams are the top 5 teams. And Texas is number 5 in my opinion. Texas is a team that has some issues. The offensive line, clearly an issue, but they have the guys. They have the depth to deal with just about any injury. Texas is a team that if you catch them on a good day, you flat out can't beat them. They're just not going to be there all the time. We saw Georgia kind of find a way around it. When your team is talented enough, you can take on a Texas. But if your team doesn't have the Georgia kind of boys, you are in trouble. Texas at 5. At number 4, it's the Miami Hurricanes. Miami, under Cam Ward, potential Heisman winner over there, just has the offense. The defense, I have a lot of question marks with, but they can keep up with literally anybody, and we've seen that on a week-in, week-out basis. Whenever the defense gets them in trouble, Cam Ward turns it around, leads a quick touchdown drive, then leads another one. Whenever you do not score against this Miami team, that's when it's over. You need to be perfect offensively to beat this Miami Hurricanes team, and no one has done that yet. At number 3, it is Georgia. Georgia, again, a really good team. They have some of the best wins in the country. Also a quality loss. But still, I'm very concerned with Carson Beck. He has thrown a 3rd interception. He's thrown 3 interceptions in 3 games this season. They've won all of them. Not a good look, though. This is a little bit concerning for when they run into a team like a Miami. They're not going to be able to win that. If they run into a team like Oregon, they're not going to be able to deal with that. These are things that I'm worried about. Georgia, very good, but still, they need to control and they need to play clean football. At 2, it's Ohio State, a great win over a Penn State team that a lot of people had really highly ranked. I was lower on them, but still a big win for Ohio State. The Buckeyes show that they really are there. They answered all my questions, to be completely honest with you, and they're the number 2 team, which leads, of course, the number 1 team, the team that separated themselves from everybody else all season long, the Oregon Ducks. The Ducks are the number 1 team in college football yet again, and no one is close to dethroning them. Till they lose, they're number 1, and I don't really see that happening this season. They don't really have another big test that I think is going to throw them, and a dominant win in the Big House is just the cherry on top right there. The Oregon Ducks are the number 1 team, but let me know what you thought. Like I said, I think only 19 teams deserve to be ranked this week. Let me know what you thought, though. Love to hear your thoughts on my top 25. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we turn our attention to the NFL trade deadline. The trade deadline is right around the corner. The trade deadline, less than 24 hours away. We talk about some players on some teams that might be on the move. But let me know what you think. We'll be right back here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.